Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine Paris, 1994. The city of lights, warm bakeries on every corner, music echoing through narrow streets, a place known for romance and beauty. But beneath that beauty, Paris has always had an underbelly, a place where the light fades and darker stories begin. In the winter of 1994, police entered a small apartment on Rue de la Glacière. At first, nothing seemed unusual, until the smell hit them. Metallic, sweet, unmistakable. Flashlights swept across the room, glass jars lining the shelves, vials filled with dark red liquid, a single human tooth resting on velvet cloth. The apartment belonged to a quiet 22-year-old mortician, a man trusted to care for the city's dead. His name was Nicolas Claux, and soon, the world would know him as the Vampire of Paris. Before the headlines, before the courtroom, before the name Vampire of Paris, there was just a quiet young man. Nicolas Claux grew up in France surrounded by ordinary life, a quiet child, withdrawn, the kind of student teachers rarely noticed, but beneath the surface, something unusual was taking shape. While other teenagers obsessed over music or sports, Nicholas became fascinated with death. Cemeteries didn't frighten him, they fascinated him. The silence, the stillness, the strange calm that surrounded the dead. And by his early 20s, Nicholas had found a job where death was everywhere, working as a mortician, preparing bodies, working quietly among the dead. In his early 20s, Nicolas Claux began working at Saint-Vincent-de-Paul Hospital in Paris. His job was simple, but unusual. He worked in the morgue. Most people would never step inside a place like that. Rows of stainless steel tables, fluorescent lights humming quietly overhead, metal drawers holding the recently deceased, cold, silent, still. But for Nicholas, the environment felt strangely natural. Night after night, he prepared bodies for burial, cleaning them, arranging them, making sure families could say their final goodbye. It was clinical work, routine, and most nights he worked alone. Just the hum of the lights and the silence of the dead. But something about that silence began to change him. Hours surrounded by death, with no one watching, no one questioning. The line between professional duty and personal fascination began to blur. What started as curiosity slowly turned into something far darker, because when the hospital corridors emptied and the night grew quiet, Nicolas Claux began crossing a line most people could never imagine. After his long shifts at the morgue, Nicolas Claux returned to a small apartment in Paris. From the outside, it looked completely ordinary. Just another quiet building on Rue de la Glacière. But behind the apartment door, a very different world waited. Inside, objects were arranged with strange precision. Shelves lined with glass jars, small vials filled with dark liquid, teeth, bones, fragments taken from the dead, each one carefully preserved, cataloged, almost like a collection. The apartment had slowly become something else, a private archive of Nicholas's obsession, a place where his fascination with death could grow, unnoticed. Every corner of the room told the same story. What had started as curiosity inside the morgue was turning into something far more disturbing, and soon, someone would discover it. Eventually, the secrecy came to an end. Police arrived at the apartment of Nicolas Claux. At first, investigators weren't sure what they were looking at. Flashlights moved slowly across the dark room, shelves filled with jars, strange objects arranged with unsettling precision. Then the details began to emerge. Small glass vials filled with blood, teeth carefully preserved, fragments taken from the dead. What they had discovered was not just strange, it was deeply disturbing.
Let's check it out.
The apartment wasn't simply unusual. It was the private world of a man whose obsession with death had gone far beyond anything investigators had ever seen. Within hours of the discovery, Nicolas Claux was sitting in a police interrogation room. Detectives needed answers: the jars, the blood, the fragments taken from the dead. But what investigators encountered wasn't panic or denial. It was calm. Nicholas spoke quietly, almost casually, as if the disturbing objects inside his apartment were nothing unusual at all. For detectives, the detachment was unsettling. They had expected fear, excuses, anything that suggested regret. Instead, they found a man who seemed strangely comfortable discussing his fascination with death. As news of the investigation spread across France, the media began searching for a name to describe the case. And soon, the public would hear a nickname that would follow Nicolas forever: the Vampire of Paris. Eventually, the case moved to court. Investigators laid out the disturbing details of Nicolas Claux's life, piece by piece: the jars, the blood, the strange collection he had built in his apartment. In the courtroom, Nicolas Claux remained quiet, calm, almost emotionless. To the media, he had already become something else: a headline, a nickname repeated across newspapers and television reports: the Vampire of Paris. But behind that name, there was no supernatural monster, only a deeply troubled man whose obsession with death had slowly taken control of his life. In the end, Nicolas Claux was sentenced for his crimes, and as the years passed, the city moved on. But the story still lingers in the darker corners of Paris, a reminder that sometimes the most unsettling monsters are very real.